A lot of times when people discuss leaders in Ghana, they want to look at the visible aspects of what they built. Roads, schools. Some argue that actually Nkrumah's lasting legacy was his ideas, not even the physical things he built. Lloyd, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's an area we've not been looking at. Nkrumah decided to engage with the deep, ideational questions of the period. Of course, he tended to couch them in Marxian terms. But beyond the Marxist sheen, here was a guy who was developing statecraft. How do you run the state? Especially of a developing polity. It was the first time that a state had been formed, if you like. Ethiopia was not colonized, but it was ancient. And you had the Ashantis, you had the Evers, you had the Gans, and all of them with their states. But they were not modern states, if you like, in the Western construct. The Machiavelli kind of construct, if you like. If you are looking at, political theory, Western political theory to be exact. So what we see with Nkrumah is that he begins to lay the lineaments or the building blocks when it comes to statecraft. And I argue in my book that he gave us what I call the Pan-African developmentalist statecraft, right? Where the African blackness, if you like, being part of the South, and all of those questions would be linked to the question of how do you transform a hitherto colonized state into a modern one that is autonomous, self-conscious, and is an important player in the international political economy, right? And so if you read the work that we've been discussing, neocolonialism, he argues basically about the means and the methods and the patterns by which, the new African states would fend off the remnants, if you like, of the colonial influence and begin to beat their own way forward, So at the level of ideas, Nkrumah he gave us this concept of African personality.
Okay.
Right? He developed it, and it was about sartorial, finesse. It was the way you conducted yourself. It was the idea that we could win at sport. So athletics, football, and all of those questions, And then he even also, the other thing that for me is important, how does the state function when it comes to policy, right? Because at that time, the East-West dialectic, or if you like, the East-West confrontation, that was then encapsulated in Marxism and liberalism, especially on the other side. The liberal side was arguing that the state should not be seen as
directly involved in business, for example.
The state should not be interventionist.
Yes.
Right? And Nkrumah was trying to challenge that and argue really that the state mattered. What we call in political science the developmental state idea. And in fact, it is this developmental state that Japan, China, Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, and the rest have used and transformed. And he was telling us, look, you need the state. The state has certain characteristics, it has certain strengths. You need to be able to leverage those.
Directly.
Not just the private sector. The question was, how does the private sector and the state interact?
Which is interesting because if you come to Eric's book from page 178 to almost 4 pages, 183, that's about 5 pages, you list all, was this all or some of the things Nkrumah did?
These are some.
Viewers, I don't know if you can put this on the screen later.
The key thing.
Construction of motorway, Tema Harbour, Akosombo Dam, Akosombo Town, establishment of VRA, North Kaneshie Kanda Laboni Estates, Accra International Airport, Peduasi Lodge, Atomic Energy, Standards Board, Academy of Arts and Sciences, CSRI, BRRI, PGRRI, FORIC, FRI, Food Research, Animal Research, Oil Research,
all the 11 institutes.
CRIG, Adobe Bridge, KNUST, Cape Coast, these are universities, Upgrading Legon, State Construction, Komfanoche, Kolebu, Cocoa Marketing Board, School of Law, Medical School, P&T, and the factories are about 45.
Yeah, the factories under Okehawk.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is state.
Yes, they were all state. They were all state owned. And don't forget, when the NLC came into power, and then was subsequently followed by the PP, the argument was that these, of course, there were some problems with these state, SOEs, if you like. But when you look at the literature, the scholars are indicating that most of these, about 90% of these, were viable, but they were essentially sold off for ideological reasons.
Yeah.
In the PPP period, and also in Jerry Rawlings' period, with a so-called divestiture implementation.
But that's funny because Rawlings was PNDC stroke NDC.
Yes.
We know it had other forces, but to think that the last frontier of state enterprise in Nkrumah founded will be sold off under...
Yeah, it was the World Bank, IMF seduction and conditionalities. I think the regime was playing a very, complex game. It had to maintain power, and it had to get the economy back on track. And the Washington Consensus and its conditionalities was saying, look, you got to become essentially neoliberalized, which means you have to get rid of these entities.
Yes.
And so they decided to sell them. It was ideological suicide. But don't forget, the PNDC had been fundamentally racked by an ideological warfare.
Yeah.
Within it, you had the hardcore Marxists, Chris Atim and the rest of them. And then you had those who were a bit kind of trying to balance the equation. You had people like Akwesi Boche and Obed Asamoah and the rest. But the latter one, the guys who were trying to say, look, let's deal with the West and see what we can squeeze out of them, right? And Jerry Rawlings, he said, I'll go with you guys.
Well, Ahoy says Rawlings wasn't interested in it.
Well, that's a whole...
the complexities of all of that. He was just like,
but I think he figured where to play his marbles, which was with these guys, and therefore went with them. So, and this is the irony of where we are now. We are fundamentally still highly neoliberalized. But now with Nanado and also with Kufuor, ironically again, these guys are the liberal guys, but they are now almost taking the state and trying to use it. Look at these responses to COVID-19. Free water, free electricity in Ghana,
free SHS.
Under people who believe in the market, free SHS. So I think Nkrumah has won the debate.
You think
eventually?
So? On the basis of this,
yes, he's won.
That
we are going back to the
his
state.
Opponents are going back.
Yes, they are going back.
You
to
think
him.
so too?
Yes.
Nkrumah has won the argument. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on Citi TV's YouTube channel. Subscribe for more videos on The Point of View. My name is Bernard Avle. Thank you.
The Point of View with Bernard Avle, Monday and Wednesday nights, only on Citi TV.